all of your favorite recipes. Simply Food.
You should know by now that you're in for a treat.
Simply Food.
There's no other channel where you'd rather be.
Simply Food. Seafood, pasta, cakes, and pies. Sing and laugh and even cry. Like and share and hit subscribe. Simply Food by TY.
What's up, you guys? It's your boy Simply Food by TY, and today I'm going to teach you guys how to make a very simple yet extremely delicious sweet potato casserole. So of course, y'all know me, I don't play games and I could care less who doesn't like it, but I will always clean my produce before any of it goes into my stomach or anybody's stomach that I will be serving it to. Okay, so we're going to make sure that we're just going to give these a light scrub down. Of course, we're not going to be utilizing the skin in this recipe, but because we're going to be putting these in the oven and baking them, I don't want any of that dirt or any of that stuff seeping down into the inside of the sweet potato. So, you know, just give it a nice little scrub down in cold water, pull off any of those strings. And then once you do that, then I like to just give them one last rinse and then we'll move over to the oven. Because this part of the recipe is actually fairly simple and easy, go on ahead and have your oven already preheated at about 375 because we are going to bake these in the oven for roughly, I would say, almost about an hour and a half, or until you can easily slide your fork into the sweet potatoes. I have mine in a little baking dish. Just word to the wise, make sure you're using a dish that you know that you can easily clean because they will ooze out because of all of that sugar that's being baked. So, you know, just keep your eye on that. As you can see, my fork went into them really, really nicely, and I did that for about an hour and a half. If you peel them while they're still hot, be careful, but if you peel them while they're hot, the skin will come off with complete ease, with no problem at all. Now, this portion of the recipe is really up to you. You can do it by fork, a potato masher, or you can put it into the food processor. Just get it nice and smooth. Let's work on that delicious crumble topping. So I'm going to be using some chopped pecans. Now, these already were labeled as chopped pecans on the bag, but in my opinion, they're never really small enough. However, if you are a big fan of pecans, you can absolutely leave them, you know, in the little bit chunkier style. I would just advise against using whole pecans because that's just too much, and you definitely want them a bit broken down. So, you know, chop them down to whatever size you would like. You can also use as much and or as little as you would like, okay? I'm going to be using roughly about 1 cup in this particular recipe. So now that we got that done, let's move on to finishing up this topping. So I'm going to be using about 1/3 of a cup of all-purpose flour. I'm using, like I said, 1 cup of the chopped pecans. Like I said, you can absolutely use more if you would like, but for me, I found that this is the perfect amount. And I'm using a 1/2 cup of white sugar. If you would like, you could use brown sugar, but I prefer to just use white sugar. I added in 1 stick, or what would be the equivalent of a 1/2 cup of Kerrygold unsalted butter. And I'm just going to give this a good little mix just so I can make sure that all of this is nicely incorporated before I start to add in the final 2 ingredients in the topping mixture. Once I get that nicely mixed together, then what I'll do is I will go ahead and I'm going to add in a nice splash of vanilla because you guys know that I'm obsessed with vanilla. And anytime you're working with sweet potatoes, you always want to add in some pure vanilla bean extract anyway. So I'm going to add in roughly about 2 teaspoons. And the reason why I'm not adding in as much right now is because we're going to be adding in some vanilla to the actual sweet potato mixture a little bit later on as well. And that is going to be the same rule of thumb for when we add the cinnamon. We're not going to add too much cinnamon to the topping because we're going to be adding some cinnamon to the filling itself as well. I use Vietnamese cinnamon. It's honestly my favorite type of cinnamon to use. You don't have to use that kind, but just make sure that it's a nice quality. I use roughly about 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. So we're going to give this a nice mix. Once we get this fully mixed, you can go on ahead and just sit this to the side because that's all you really need. Now, I will let you know now, depending on what size pan you're going to be using, I'm going to be doing this in a cast iron skillet. So for me, this was the perfect amount. But if you're going to be making this for, you know, a family of, I would say, more than like 6 or 7 people, you're going to need to double, if not triple, that crumble topping. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So this is about the consistency that I like mine to be. It doesn't have to be completely, you know, thinned out like a mashed potato. It's fine if there's a little bit of texture to it, but you definitely just don't want any chunks. Okay. Also, word to the wise, make sure you allow that to drastically cool off. You do not want to scramble your eggs. So I added in another 2 teaspoons of vanilla bean extract. I added in a half a cup of white sugar and 2 more teaspoons of the Vietnamese cinnamon and 2 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream and roughly about 4 tablespoons of butter. I'm going to go on ahead and give this a good mix until all of that is fully incorporated. Once again, I want to emphasize, do not, please make sure that you allow your potatoes to cool down some. They don't have to be cold, but you definitely want them to cool down, because if you put your eggs directly into that piping hot sweet potato mixture once it's come out of the oven, you'll run the risk of scrambling up your eggs, and ain't nobody got time for that, okay? So now you want to make sure that you fully mix in your egg mixture. Now, I will also say this. If you are one that likes your sweet potatoes a little bit on the sweeter side, I would advise you to taste the mixture prior to you adding in the egg. That way, if you would like to add any more sugar, or if you would like to add in nutmeg or even a dash of ginger, you could also do so. But I would do that before you add the egg. So just word to the wise. I'm going to transfer this mixture over into my cast iron skillet. Like I said, this particular recipe would serve anywhere between, I would say, almost 6 to 7 people, because this is a sweet potato casserole, so you're really not going to need that much because it is sweet. But if you're going to be doing this for Thanksgiving, where you know you're going to have a lot of people coming over, I would definitely make sure you double, if not triple, this entire recipe, okay? So now that we got this in our cast iron skillet nice and smooth, we can reduce the temperature in our oven to 350 degrees. And now we're going to put on that topping. Now, in regards to the topping, if you're going to be doing it the way I'm doing it in the cast iron skillet and you stuck with the measurements that I've given you, it might seem as if you don't have enough of that topping, but I promise you, you absolutely do. Because what we're going to do is once we get all of that topping mixture in there, we're going to go in with a fork, and then we're just simply going to spread it out. You want to make sure that you're careful that you're not mixing it in. You just want to kind of spread it out. Now, as I said, if you stuck with the measurements that I'm using and you're using a standard size cast iron skillet, this is actually going to be more than enough. It actually spreads out quite nicely. And it's okay if you see little bits and pieces of the sweet potato underneath. That's totally fine. So once you get this completely spread out, you're going to pop this in the oven. I would say anywhere between 25 to 30 minutes. Mind you, everything is cooked. You really just want to keep an eye until the top becomes golden brown. Once it becomes that, you can take it out, let it rest for about 10 minutes or so before you serve it, and you have yourself a delicious sweet potato casserole. Look, if you're new to my channel, welcome to Simply Food by TY. If you're one of my returning subscribers, you babies know I love y'all so much. This is one of my favorites. And if you're one of those people that love marshmallows, honey, have at it. It's just not for me. All right, y'all take care. Bye.
Slaying in the kitchen.
Simply Food by TY.
We hope that you enjoyed it.
Simply Food by TY. If you haven't took the time, make sure you subscribe. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching Simply Food.